Hey techies, we're back with another episode of Tech Society. Today is a special episode recorded on premise at the Film My Video studios.
Welcome to another episode of Tech Society TV. Today we're sitting with Rupen Kotecha, who is a strategically and commercially minded UK chartered accountant who now resides with us in Perth. How's it going, Rupen?
Very good, and glad to be here with you guys.
All right, well, do you want to tell us a bit about your time in the UK before coming out to Perth?
Yeah, so I qualified as a chartered accountant, went through practice, and then decided that I wanted to become a CFO in the UK, and I made my way up, and I got to British Airways, CFO there, and at British Airways I was flying around quite a bit. You know, I'd be away week in, week out because that's what the job entailed. I'd be coming home at weekends. I had little kids looking at me, probably thinking this man's come back, and then Monday I'm off again. Yeah. So when we arrived in Perth, I made a conscious decision that I don't want to be in another corporate role. I was looking for freedom from corporate life and a work-life balance because I'd missed out on some of the early years. Don't want to miss out anymore. Right. So from that, we started thinking about, okay, what does that need to look like? So I set up my first business ever, the CFO Centre here in Perth. And the thinking there was that I've been a CFO at British Airways, so I know how to run a business, right? Yeah. Nice and easy. Makes perfect sense. The first 2 years, it was like, whew, my God, this is a little bit different. New product in a new market, because most small, medium businesses are used to having a bookkeeper and an external accountant. Yes. And then I come along and say, look, you could do with a part-time CFO. What do you need you for? Just an extra cost. So there was a whole piece around moving into Perth, new product, new market, not really brought up here, so I don't have the networks. And 2 years later, I decided, look, I need to be surrounded by some experts who can help me take this thing to another level. And as soon as I got away out of the way of the business, we took off like a rocket. And now that business is all across Australia and New Zealand.
There's an interesting point there about education. So you had to educate businesses that had never even considered having a CFO. How did you do that in like a really quick?
Yeah, so the thing is, once you start rolling out what a CFO does, they get bored. Yeah. So you got to work out, okay, so what's the pitch? What does a CFO actually bring you? Sure, we can do cash flows and strategy and review, and we can do all of that. But what a CFO really does is helps business owners live the life they choose by helping the business tick the way it should. That's the end game, because that's why they got into business. That's why they left work or decided to set up their business, so that they can have a better life. But majority of business owners, once they get into business, it's actually a worse life because they're carrying this burden on their shoulders, weekends, 24/7, 365.
Yeah, that's true. And I guess our experience as a CFO also helps you access lines of credit that you may not have been able to get, and provides a business banking network that most business owners don't have.
Pretty much, because if you want to grow a business, you're going to need capital. Yeah. Where's the capital going to come from? If you go and knock on the door of a bank, you might be an early stage, they're not going to lend you much money. So you've got to find other avenues to find that money if it is you want to go on a growth path in the business.
So how did you find those 2 years as a startup in a new city? That's a pretty big,
I'll tell you
big jump.
We actually ran out of cash as a family because the thing wasn't picking up as quick as I thought it would. So the kids have experienced living on pretty much nothing, for a little while. Right. And then the business took off. And then when we could manage, we went on a big fat holiday after 6 years of being in Perth. And the kids actually asking me, because they'd grown up, they're teenagers, saying, Dad, can we really afford this? Because, we didn't have all this. Yeah. So, but having been through that, it's really easy for me to have conversations with business owners to say, look, if you go through that, there's ways around it. Yeah. These are the things you need to do so that you don't dip too low on your growth journey.
So you said when you got out of the way of the business, it suddenly took off. What did you mean by that?
That's a really good point. That's about profiling. So I learned along the way that what you've got to do in a business is your role should be around your personality profile and your passion. If you carve your role around that, you will take off because everyone else will then have the same key things in place. If you try and do everything, you won't go very far because there'll be a lot of things in there which are out of your profile. You'll be trying to do something about them. That's not you.
It's
Give it
so
to someone else.
it's so tempting though as a business owner.
Just to do everything.
Save money.
Yeah,
That's right. Save money.
That's
It's
time.
always like, oh, why do I want to pay that person to do something I could do?
Yeah.
But really, what he's saying is, I don't want to pay someone to do something that I'll do badly.
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
And you won't go very far.
Yeah.
So I tried that for 2 years, and I realized that my skill set is at the front end of the business, which is talking to people, explaining to them what we do, converting leads, deal maker. That's my profile.
Yeah.
So you could wake me up middle of the night and say, mate, there's a deal to be done. I'm out of bed. We're gone for it. But if you wake me up and say you got to do some cash flows and things, I've got a really good team.
Yeah.
Now there's 65, 70 CFOs now across Australia and New Zealand. I'll lend you one of those. Yeah.
You just have to identify your weakness or the thing that doesn't excite you as much. I think find someone to do that.
That's easy to identify, though. I think, isn't it? Like you just
Some people just hate. You know what you hate.
Yes.
Right?
You know it.
Yeah.
But this profile test, it's a 3-minute test we do, and that will recognize straight away, these are the gaps. You know what? Don't go down that route. Give it to someone else.
Yeah. And what business owners often miss is that actually spending that money will make them more money because they're doing the things that actually make the business money.
Yeah. It's not a cost, it's an investment. And once you get your head around that, then, and the good thing is these days with the gig economy, you don't have to hire a full-time person. You can have part-time this, part-time that to help you fill the gaps. And as you take off, you can utilize more of them until you're big enough to have a full-time. So there's so many options.
Yeah, that reduces the risk a bit as well because it means you can just bring people in and help
As you need them,
Yeah.
and they come and go.
So tell us a bit about WA Leaders.
Yeah, so what happened is this is again out of my journey as a business owner. Come over here, set this thing up, thinking it's just going to plant some seeds. We're going to take off, have the tree growing and get the fruits of it. Yeah. Nice and easy, right? And then I realized that, hang on, many other business people like me are stuck. They know their product and service really well, but actually to run, to grow and scale a business, that's not something they've done before. They don't know how to do it. So why take that task on? If you have experts around you, then they're going to help you along that journey. And so I did that with my journey from the CFO Centre. And 5 years ago, I thought, hang on, how many other business people like me? Plenty of them. In fact, all of them. They might have businesses which are turning over 1 million, 20, 30 million, still in the same hole. Now, they don't know how to quite get to that point of running and scaling their business, which is why we set up WA Leaders, to take business owners on a journey which inspires them to innovate, to grow their business, and to get on that scaling, because that's where value is in the business. If you try and do everything yourself, then you've kind of found yourself a new job. And when you go to sell your business, there's no value.
Yeah.
That's the end game. You're doing it because you're creating an asset which you can then exit out of, and that's your retirement fund. Or get a job. You can do it day in, day out.
You save a lot of time too. You don't have to work so long. And you're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So would you consider WA Leaders kind of your passion project?
Yeah, totally. So the biggest passion piece for me is inspiring business owners to go on that journey. And that there's a story behind that. So when I was growing up, teenage years in Kenya, family had quite a few businesses with dad and his brothers. And that, I call it an empire because it was huge, collapsed.
Oh, wow.
And that kind of etched something in my brain forever. And the thinking's been that the journey I've been on has actually been to, if we'd had a good CFO in those businesses, if there was WA Leaders where dad and his brothers could have been surrounded by other business owners and experts, I don't think those businesses should have gone under. They really shouldn't have. So I've turned that into my passion to help others on that journey, because I can spot it straight away because I've been through it, the family's been through it. When I see that, I think, ooh, I can see that. No, you guys need to come on this journey and we'll show you how to do it.
It's a pretty common problem as well. I think you see it everywhere.
And from our personal experience, we had no real business friends, allies until we joined WA Leaders. Yeah. And that was a really eye-opening experience for us. Actually having people who have been through the problems we have had and are dealing with, and just it is a really friendly environment, but it actually helps the business as well.
Peers.
That community you're surrounded by at W Leaders is a real big value. No, so the whole idea of Leaders is to take companies which are good. We don't want to deal with broken companies because there's other people who can help with them. But if the company's good, we want to make them great. And the way we do it is surround you with those experts. But that whole community of other members, the experts, the members who are on the journey just like you are, now you can bounce ideas. You can learn from each other. Because running a business can be a really lonely journey. This way, you're never on your own. Now, you can pick the phone up to any of the other members, and just the fact that you remember, just easier to get through and have a chat and say, mate, I'm going through this. What do I do? Or have a drink at the monthly event, and you say, oh, I want to have a catch up with these guys because they look like they've gone somewhere.
And that's, I want to get to that kind of membership to W Leaders is fairly exclusive. Like you actually talk to the business owners, figure out whether they're a good fit. Do you want to tell us a bit about that?
So what does it take?
What's the process there? What are you looking for?
We are so careful who we bring in there because we've created a beautiful pond. We don't want to chuck a rock in there. So the key criteria is there's 2 tiers of membership. There's future leaders, so they're early stage companies, generally sub $1 million. And then the executive members are over $1 million turnover. And the executive members can bring up to 3 people on the journey with them. So what we're looking for is businesses who want to take their business to another level, business owners who are open to new learnings, new ideas. They want to be part of a network. Because if they're not open to new ideas, don't bring them in here because they won't get anything out of it. In fact, they'll ruin it for everyone else and say, oh, I know this, I know that. And funny enough, when I started Leaders, I had a bit of that thought in my head because I'd been CFO at British Airways and I thought, I probably know quite a bit. And I sit through the workshops and I listen to the experts presenting. And I'm thinking, there's very little I know because things move on. And what you don't know, you don't know. And unless someone puts it on the table and says, do you know this? And say, oh, no, I don't know anything about it. Let me explore it a bit further and then take it back into my business.
Before we continue this podcast, here's a message from our sponsor.
Vision is our art form. Emotions are the narrative. And we believe boundaries are just stepping stones. Film my video, telling your story.
There's an interesting point you brought up about being the CFO of British Airways. How different is that, an executive in a corporate environment like that compared to running your own company, a medium-scale company, large company? What's that juxtaposition like?
It's huge difference. Yeah, it's totally different. Even if you're the CEO at British Airways, now at the end of the day, that's not your company. It's not your baby. Now you're employed. Might still be called a director or whatever it is. And at the end of the day, what you've created in your own business, my own business, is my baby. Now I'm thinking 24/7 about it. Now at weekends, there's still business thoughts running through my head. You can't quite switch off, and you got to give yourself time to do that.
That's a problem in itself, I think.
But that's the issue, and that's the difference, because you want this thing to succeed. And
need it to succeed.
Need it to succeed because you've invested in it, and make it happen. And so there's a very different mindset, and that was my 2-year journey. I call it de-corporatizing. Being corporatized all these years as a chartered accountant and as a corporate CFO, and then suddenly coming out of that. Now, you can't just turn the switch.
I guess it's like being the captain of a gigantic shipping vessel.
This is what,
and then you're
canoe?
No, just a speedboat. Yeah, it's different.
Yeah. You're actually controlling this. You're going to make sure there's enough fuel in it. Whilst on the other one, there's people who are there doing a lot of stuff for you.
Send the order down to the back and carry on. Yeah.
And then at some point, you might want to jump ship and go into another ship. Oh, that one looks better. So off you go. Bye. Whilst if it's your own business, that's your baby. You don't want to part with it straight away. And even when you come to exiting it at some point in the future, you want to pass it on to someone or a company which looks after your people you've created and all of those kind of things.
Because what's your long-term plans for the CFO Centre?
So CFO Centre, we taken it all across Australia and New Zealand. We joint ventured with the guys in the UK. So it's a global
Fantastic.
business. And what that does is it actually creates, for our clients, a one-stop shop where if they're looking to expand into the US or Canada or South Africa, we've got CFOs on the ground who can help them into those markets. So it's damn good. In terms of the longer term piece, I want to carry on working as long as I can. And the great thing about these businesses is we've got CFOs on board. There's one of our team members in the UK. He's 70 years old and he still looks after one client because he can. Because otherwise he'll be doing nothing.
Yeah,
Because he wants to.
He wants to, and he wants to keep up there. He wants to keep the marbles ticking.
Yeah.
So for me, the end game would be to have someone kind of take on that kind of position who can do the job I'm doing. And I've been in the process of putting that into place. So now the role I play in both businesses is pretty much per my profile and my passion. That's all I do. Everything else is taken care of by everyone else. So that's taken a few years to get to that point. The next stage is bringing someone in who can do my stuff. And that takes a bit of trust.
that's a scary. That's a scary thought.
Yeah. Can they do it better than I can? Well, I got to have to firstly find the right person with the right profile. So that profiling tool we use, absolutely critical. And then we got to look at the culture and all of that, because you can have someone coming in and ruining your business if you're not careful. Yeah. And I can see myself then elevating to a more of a chairman kind of role. So that's the kind of journey I can see myself on.
That's the kind of journey that WA Leaders helps other business
Pretty
leaders
much.
with.
And it's mirroring. It's funny enough. One's my actual business, which we're practicing how to do this stuff. And the other one's training people of exactly how to go on that journey. So it's learning for me as well. Yeah.
So you've been in business for a long time, but why did you get into business in the first place?
Yeah, so that came out of my pretty much the thing I mentioned around the journey from Kenya, where the businesses went broke, the family businesses, and it really was about me finding time for my kids, but also making sure that I've got a way to earn money, and also a way to make sure that I live the life I choose. If we're doing it for our clients, I want to live the life I choose. So if you think about what we do is, 5:30 generally, we're having dinner, family together. And straight after that, there's still time to go to the beach for a walk or watch the sunset. That's the life I've chosen, and I'm living it. Now, when you've got those two congruent, that's a tick. Yeah. That didn't happen overnight.
So how long did it take you to get to that point?
So the first 2 years...
I'm envious just hearing it. Like, 5:30?
That depends on your mindset. Now, are you ready to change your mind? That makes your business successful. And that took a little while for me to achieve that. And when I got there, the mindset took lots and lots of help from other people. And that's what I'm open to.
What do you say to people like Elon Musk who are saying, 80 hours a week to
100
build
hours.
a successful company? 100 hours, something ridiculous like that. Yeah. And I've kind of put myself in that category as well. I don't say it's necessary, but I'm definitely living that life right now.
You don't need to. And I haven't done that to build these businesses. Well, actually, there's a backstory. These aren't the only two businesses I've had. Since I came to Australia, it's 11 years. Landed in Australia, started the first business and got going. The issue was when I started setting up all these other businesses, like I had 10 going on at the same time.
Wow, 10 businesses.
Legal business, and there was a strategy business, and there was a people profiling business with different business partners. And I caught up with a friend of mine, and we're just having coffee, and he goes, tell me, what's going on? And I told him, I've got all these things going on. And he goes, Rupen, you're crazy. None of them will succeed. I said, the reason I've got them going is if one goes down, the other one's up, it all balances out. He goes, none of them will work.
Wow.
And it took me a year to process that in my mind and work out that he was right.
There's a lot of spinning plates.
Nothing's going to work. And now I've got two companies with a single product in each. That's it. That's all we do. And it worked. Now, unfortunately, that friend of mine passed away about a year ago, but his memory lives on. Because he taught me something really important. Focus.
And have faith in yourself as well.
That's a big thing. You've got to trust yourself. You've got to have belief. That's all part of the mindset training to get you to become successful. Once you have belief that this is going to work out, guess what? It works out. I'll share a little story with you about my little boy when he moved from primary school into high school. The great thing is the kind of lifestyle we've created. I can go and pick him up. So if my wife's working, then I'll go and pick him up from school. And those conversations in the car when I pick him up, find out exactly what's going on. And I watched him. He comes into the car and he's said, "How's the day been?" He goes, "Yeah, good." I think, nah, something's not right. This transition's a little bit harder than I think.
Yeah.
So what I did was I told him, because we have, as a family, we're pretty religious. And after you shower in the morning, first thing you do before breakfast is go and pray. Got a little temple. And I said, you go to the temple. I tell you what, just part of your prayer is that you can say that today's going to be a great day. And he goes, "Dad, what does that mean? How's that going to work?" And because he's that kind of quizzy kind of kid. And I said, "Don't worry about that. Just do that every day. Just go in. Today's going to be a great day." And I watched him and I picked him up from school. I could see the little change happening. And I'd ask him, "How's it going?" He goes, "Yeah, not bad." I said, "Okay, so things are improving." Okay, so then a few weeks later, I said to him, "How was it?" He goes, "Yeah, it was a really good day." I said, "Do you know what you've been doing? You've been kind of getting your mind set up for success, for a day to be good." I said, "Yeah, there will be some days. This is life. There will be some days which won't work out. It's okay. But carry on. More and more of those days." And it's changed the way he thinks about school because he wasn't liking it. The same thing in business. You've got to have that belief today's going to be good. And if every day is good and you're on the journey and you've got a bigger picture, you've got to have that biggest picture in your mind of what the end looks like. You've got to have that. This written down stuff is good. Business needs a strategy and all that.
Yeah.
But in your mind, you need to have that picture. That's all it needs. And every day you say to yourself, "Yep, we're going to get that." And you move towards it every day. And that's a trick I use even now.
Yeah. I've never met a pessimistic businessman who's survived.
Isn't it? Yeah. Because they're always looking forward. But you've got to, the belief is different from you just kind of pressing down emotions and things. That's another piece. As a business owner, not everything's good all the time. And you got to be vulnerable and say, "You know what? I screwed up there." Or, "I don't know how to do that. Can you help me?"
Yeah.
And that's what I've learned. You don't have to just, because at W Leaders, I'll get up on stage and people think, "Oh yeah, everything's good." Well, shit happens. It's life. Things happen. But it's okay. And you got to face up to it and say, "Yep, today's not that good. Let me just feel the emotion. What am I feeling here?" Yeah, okay, fine.
And that's where having a business support network like WA Leaders is so valuable.
Yeah.
Totally. It's worked for us. We've definitely, there's been times where we've faced questions we didn't know the answer for, and just networking at the end of the WA Leaders events has
helped a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is
talking to peers, really.
Yeah.
Something that it's hard to find because I find most business owners are very busy.
Yeah. And to find a group of mid-tier companies coming together is very hard because most networks will be smaller micro businesses, but you want to play with the bigger guys. And that's where W Leaders kind of comes in, not at the top end of town, but in that middle. And it's about companies who are stuck in this economic desert. They're not quite startups. They're not quite corporate yet. They're stuck in the middle. The startups get a lot of funding. They get a lot of help. The corporates, they can pay for it. And it's us guys in the middle. You got to find your own way through it. And W Leaders helps. That's exactly what it's about. And it's the piece around being challenged. Because you could carry on your merry way. But when you get challenged by a mentor or another member of Leaders, that's what it's about. Because that gets you thinking and saying, "Ooh, maybe there is a different way. I've just never thought about it."
Yeah. And that's really common. Watching someone give a keynote speech at W Leaders, and I'm like, "Whoa, I haven't thought of that before."
Yeah.
And you said that you've experienced that as well. So
Totally. Now, I listen to the speeches and I think, "Ooh, I got to go and talk to them," because they put something there on the table which we're experiencing. They've already been through it, through the lessons learned piece. So let me go and have a chat with them. Or they might have put something on the table which is, they experience some issues. And when they come off stage, you get all these people flocking to them and saying, "Yeah, mate, those guys over there, they helped me out. Go and have a chat with them." And I think that's what that community is about. It's about helping each other. And if you've got that kind of culture created, then when you show up, you're going to feel good because everyone's there to help you and you're helping everyone else. It's a good outcome.
just be boring for a second, but how have you gone? How has the community handled COVID-19, which obviously means you can't meet in person for now? How's the membership moved through that?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. As soon as we found out that we can't host face-to-face events because that's all we do, and that we thought, right, we got to keep this community together. We got to provide them even more support because this is when they need it. This is the time these guys need our support and help. So we stepped it up using Zoom, using running events, running the mentoring sessions on Zoom. In fact, one of our members, when we presented, one of the things they said is, did you guys know this COVID thing's coming? Because you transitioned into this virtual environment so quickly and so nicely that it's really helped everyone. So that was a major part of it. And we were just waiting as soon as the restrictions are lifted, we can go and have a face-to-face event, and that's what we're doing.
I'm looking forward to that.
So really making it happen quickly. I think that was it. Also introducing another event because we could using the technology online. Now where we have breakout rooms, and there the whole ethos is around helping each other. So one-to-one, we call it one-to-one connect to refer. And that's about helping other members promote their business because this is the time everyone's looking to rebuild and grow. And that works really well.
What about CFO Centre? How's your customers through CFO Centre? How are they faring through this time?
Yeah. So part of our onboarding with our CFO Centre clients, and not just now, all the way from word go, is we talk about the risks which could affect their business. And the risks we talk about are what can come along and overturn your business. It could be called COVID. It could be called competition. It could be called the government changing the legislation. Now, what's your plan if something like that happens? And that's something we take them through. So when this thing happened, guess what, guys?
They were ready.
We've talked about something here. Yeah. It's just called COVID. This thing's maybe a little bit worse than we thought because we can't even see each other. That's another angle which we haven't talked about and thought through. But that's okay. What can we do to make this thing happen? And one of the things we got the CFO team to talk to their clients and say, look, we're helping you with the government grants and your future strategy. You need to pivot the way you're operating, all of those kind of things. In addition to that, you might be putting through pay cuts in your business. We're happy to take an equivalent fee cut. Wow. Or we reduce the hours. And they say, no, don't reduce the hours. We need you even more. So that's what we've done. And I tell you what, no one's gone away. So now a lot of them on the way ticking back up. And it's like, we can't let go of you guys. No, because you held the ship together and now we're on our way. So it's been, and even through, apart from the first 2 or 3 weeks, we really didn't pick up any new work because the companies were back at base. They were trying to figure things out themselves. As soon as those 2 or 3 weeks were over, we've been picking up new work, new clients coming on. Got an onboarding session tomorrow morning with a brand new client, and it's just happening because we're there to help. And if you show up, and that's the other thing about business, if you genuinely show up wanting to help, wanting to whatever product or service you've got, then people pick that up.
Yeah.
You're not just there trying to shove something down their throat because you're going to make some money out of it.
No, you're just there to help.
Yeah, they'll see that after a while. Yeah.
It's interesting because in WA Leaders, I noticed that you guys moved so agile. It's instantly switched digital.
Like that.
Actually, I remember the last event we had WA Leaders. Yeah. And you were on stage and you just said, this is probably the last one. And then immediately switched over to Zoom.
That's it.
Yeah. And it's worked really well. And now you're already switching back. So I think being agile as a business is something that a lot of businesses are not used to. And, you have to be familiar enough with a very chaotic environment.
Yeah.
And
and the way to get through all of that, that was needed innovation in our model because our model wasn't that. And to innovate, you need to collaborate. You can't try and sort things out in your own head or even in your own team. You got to go outside. That's why we have the experts. The industry, the government, the business experts we've got in leaders, and also the community we've got, not just here. We've got New Zealand leaders, New South Wales leaders, Sydney leaders, all of those all coming together and kind of us having that collaboration. Which is why we were able to switch to that virtual environment and learn from each other and help each other work on that basis because they're running similar kind of communities in their own region, including London. Now, London's lockdown, probably worse than what we've had over here in terms of their spread of the virus, etc.
Yeah.
But they've carried on. So that global kind of community we've got helps to get there. But you got to collaborate. Don't try and fix things in your business on your own. That's important. That's why leaders exist.
It hasn't changed. It's consistent. The message is consistent.
And we follow the same.
Yeah,
It's not like teaching you something different and we go and do something different.
We believe that you can create art and beauty with technology. We think big. We move quietly. We are Ninja Software.
What's your favorite moments from WA leaders so far? I know it's a really open-ended question,
No,
but I know you've got
I'm sure you
some.
have
So
Yeah. It's when we launched 5 years ago. It was like fist up in the air. It was like, yeah, we did it. Because to set up something like WA Leaders, unlike a networking event, we just bring people together. This requires advisory board. It requires industry partners, industry experts. You've got to find the members. You've got the mentoring sessions, the workshops. It's quite complex.
Yeah.
And when we launched our first event, it was like, whew, that was an 8-month journey.
Right.
8 months. And then you can't sprint. It's a marathon. You just go at the right pace. And the last month you sprint to launch it. And it was like, no, I don't drink alcohol, but I was on a real high that day. Honestly, when we launched it, it was like, whew, we did it. And you see the people in the room and the conversations going on. And you had a picture of you in your mind when I was building it all up. And I'd be walking on the beach, every day, just visualizing what is it going to look like. And then when you see it happening, you think, right, we've done it, made it happen. Now we're going to make it even better. So that's pretty much it. That was the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, every time I go to leaders, I come out on a real high because it's just great
Yeah.
because of the people
agree.
we've got in
Yeah.
there. That's all it is. And I was trying to work it out. What is it that gives me such a high? It's the energy from the people.
Every single person in that room is dynamic,
Yeah.
growth mindset. They're interesting, intelligent. There's no one there that you avoid.
If we're there to avoid, they won't be there.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah,
kind of
that's
people
part of
we
your
don't want to bring
criteria.
in.
Yeah, exactly.
So we have criteria.
Mm.
So I've been having quite a few Zoom meetings with members knocking on the door. There's a nomination process. So they do the nomination, as you guys have come through that. And then we tick through, do they fit or not? And if they don't, sorry, can't take you in.
Mm.
So that seems to work.
Any challenging moments?
Yeah, we've had absolutely. Just before we started, we had issues with our logo and brand because there's a similar organization with a similar name, different organization, similar name in Perth, and they challenged us with a legal letter and threatening us to shut us down before we kicked off.
Oh, wow.
But we kind of navigated that because we've recognized that if you want to build a successful brand and company, then you've got to make sure all the legal things behind it are taken care of. So we've done that. So we've not just registered our brand, we've gone beyond that.
Like trademarking and...
We've trademarked way before. So there's no way we could be wobbled. But it was a real wobbly moment because if they did that, they could have stopped our first event. That's the other reason, was fist in the air. We got through it and we got through that. So that's a story which not many people know, but he was like thinking, is this going to go anywhere? Or are we going to just end up fighting a legal battle with someone?
Mm. It's never a good moment as a business owner when you open a letter from someone else's legal firm.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
You think, what's that about?
Yeah.
Well, we got through it.
It's never good news.
Yeah.
Especially pre-launch.
Yeah.
Just before we're about to go.
Yeah.
We've got people who've signed up, we're ready to go, and this thing's happening.
It would be a horrible time to have to rebrand.
Yeah. Belief that we're going to get through it, whatever shape or form that took, that's what got us through. And that's really important. Day in, day out. Things come along. It's business. It's life. Now, when that's only going to stop when you're 6 feet underground. You've got to remember that. Now, I get my kids say, it's been a hard day. I say, yeah, that's good. Come on, let's talk about what was challenging about it. Maybe there's some learning in that. There's always some learning. And if you can think of things in that different way, then you just carry on. Say, let's go for it. Bring it on.
on that, like now that you've gone through all these stages in your life, would you have done anything differently, or would you just are you happy with the path that you've taken so far?
It's been a really long-winded journey. I'd never become a chartered accountant if I had the people profiling knowledge. I wouldn't have gone down that track.
I was going to say, accountant and deal maker are definitely worlds apart.
This
in
is
general.
it. Yeah. And I got through the exams, and the thing with human beings is we're intelligent beings. We can turn our hand to anything. However, as soon as people look away, you veer to the things you'd like to do in your profile. So why go against it? Just go towards it. So coming back to that, I would not have chosen going down that path.
Right.
In fact, my degree was economics and law. That again is even more into that hard kind of piece, which that's not me. But it was good. It was a good journey to go through it.
I think we may have similar profiles, and I dropped out of my law degree. So
there you go. I mean, I went through it because I thought, right, we just got to get through it. However, that's not the path I want. And it took a business partner of mine who we did a people profiling business together. That's what taught me about all this stuff. And now I run profile tests for people. People come along, knock on the door and say, what do I do? It's the first thing. Well, let's have a profile test now. 3 minutes. And I can work out, okay, so these are the things which you're good at. Everything else, ditch. So you've got to find a role. You've got to find your passion. So like if you really want to be a dentist, then that's your passion piece. And then the role within that practice or whatever, that's got to be according to your profile.
And you did this profile on us, the profiling on us, didn't you?
That's right.
Before we joined WA Leaders.
That's part of the orientation.
Yeah,
So we
that's
profile
very
everyone.
interesting.
Because that gives you awareness of yourself, and you can take it back to your team. And then if you work within that profile, you will fly.
Actually, I think we did make the whole team do
Really
it.
important.
Yeah.
And everyone who comes in new. So I'll give you an example with these profile tests. I had one of the members. They have an office downstairs from where we are, and they were looking at recruiting someone, and they found someone, and the role was a account manager, and did the profiling. I said, look, I'm happy to do it using email, and then have a quick Zoom catch up with the person. And I did that, and I said, maybe accountant for this person, but not account manager. And he goes, I had a feeling that was the case. But that kind of is the level you go to. Like if you want a salesperson, then you need someone who can do deals. You don't want someone who's just good at relationships, because they'll have a great time. They'll have beers. They'll go and connect with them. Right. Years and years would pass by without a deal. I want a deal maker as my salesperson. And then the relationship piece, the account management piece can be someone who's really good at that. So two different roles.
That's interesting.
Complementary as well. So you couldn't really find someone who's good at everything.
No.
You'd have to find
Impossible. Yeah.
It doesn't work.
It's at odds.
Yeah.
With themselves then.
So that way, if you got that in place, then you're successful, your team's successful, and they're feeling good because they're kicking goals. Because then that's it. Yeah. That's really important. So you're building up a whole organization using that profile.
How easy is it managing a whole company of CFOs, especially with that profiling? Yeah.
So what you got to do is have right people under you to do that, some of that sort of stuff. Okay, so it comes back to profile. What do I like doing? I like going out and closing deals. Can I manage a team? Absolutely. Is there someone else who's better at that? Yeah. So you find someone, and I've got my general manager who runs that part of it, and who's amazing in that relationship piece with the clients, because I just want to go and find new deals. Let's go and find them. Someone's got to look after what we've already got. Otherwise, there'll be a big hole at the bottom of the barrel with the team and the clients, and we don't want that. So there's people in place along the way who can do that. So that's really important, that you, again, work out, what's your profile. And then you can build an organization as big as you want. Doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Now at WA Leaders, we've got over 150 member companies. No. Do I know all of them? Absolutely. But who looks after them? My general manager. Because that's the role. Yeah, she's good at that.
Yeah, and she makes you look good.
Well, funny enough, when we launched WA Leaders, that was what I told her. I said, look, your job's to make me look good. And she goes, I won't forget that. Yeah. And then everyone down the chain knows she's got people under her as well. So they make her look good. So if you got all the way through and you got right people sitting in the right seat doing the right role, then the chances are, obviously there's cultural things you got to be careful of and all that. But otherwise, majority of it's a tick. You've got an organization which works really well. And if you multiply that, imagine having organizations which are thousands of people, okay, and everyone's doing exactly what they're meant to be doing, and it's according to their profile and their passion. It's not work anymore.
Yeah.
It's fun. Now, for me, I get up in the morning and say, let's go and close another deal. I don't wake up in the morning and think, oh my God. That's it. So once you've got that alignment.
As soon as you have those negative feelings, you just hire someone. You find someone.
There's something your roles kind of, sometimes you end up stretching into those areas. As a CEO, you kind of got to do that. It's okay.
Yeah.
But only for a short space of time. Then you're back to your piece because someone else is managing the rest of it.
So just to talk about your origin story, and I want to kind of ask a question on that. So you've built, by the sounds of it, at least 2 successful businesses in WA. I don't know what happened to the other 8. Yeah. What do you say to people who think it's hard to do in Perth? Or, we're a small, isolated city. You chose Perth for whatever reason. Can you speak to that and kind of give advice to people who are worried that the Perth market seems small or doesn't have the energy that, say, Sydney or Melbourne does, or London, which is where you came from?
Yeah. So the key thing about choosing Perth, because my wife and I didn't want to bring our kids up in London anymore. Beautiful place to visit. As a tourist, it's great. We still go back and have fun, but we think, what would it be like working here? It's just a rat race, and it's just not. And then the weather, and then it's crowded.
Yeah.
So when we had the choice of moving, we're thinking, where do we go? The US, well, culturally, is that where we want to go? And we thought of Canada. It's wonderful. Culturally, all that's really good, but it's freezing cold. I don't want to go. That's one of the reasons I'll leave the UK. So we picked Australia and said, okay, in Australia, if we look at Sydney and Melbourne, you're back on the rat race kind of thing. I don't want that. So we picked Perth for that reason. It's big enough. Yes, it's small enough to get around. And then the other thing we looked at is in terms of the market. So the kinds of things I want to do, is there a big enough market? Absolutely. It's big enough. From here, can we expand our business and take it elsewhere? Yeah, we've done that. Yeah. Don't have to be moving. I don't have to go and live. So in fact, what happened is when we grew the CFO Centre, I ended up back on a plane, which reminded me of my British Airways, as I'm thinking, ooh, that's come back. Yeah. So we've carved out the business. Now we've got a CEO who runs the Eastern States.
How did you find that moving over East, trusting someone to be you over there? That must have been difficult. Yeah.
So again, profile. And that person was already in the team. I'd actually helped recruit that person as a regional director, and now they've moved up to that CEO level.
How do you find someone who's entrepreneurial but maybe doesn't want to start their own thing? That must be a difficult person to find and keep entertained.
Yeah. That's a real challenge which we had. But finding someone who was similar in profile to me, who also enjoyed doing what we do. So that passion piece was a tick. There was the family thing, that they'd done it because of family. So you got to have all those kind of criteria, which made me move from corporate to what I'm doing. If majority of those boxes are ticked, then it's an easier transition. But if you're trying to squeeze someone in because they've got some criteria ticked off, round hole, square peg, it won't work.
How did you find that person? Was it through your networks like WA Leaders, or was it just advertising on Seek? Yeah. So
that was through they came through as a CFO, they came through that channel, so we got to know them. Right. And it's best that if you're going to have that in place, then you kind of get to know them. And it's worked. Because
it's a really close relationship. It's a partnership in a sense. Yeah. But they're so far away that you have to trust them as much as you trust your wife. Yeah.
And that's the other thing you've got to do in business. Because if you don't have that, you'll never be able to sleep.
Yeah.
Things will happen. Well, you got to have enough intel around and kind of enough feeling in your gut to say, something's not right here, and pick up on it. And you've got to be open to that. Because if you pick up these kind of feelings and you don't do anything about them, these are messages coming to you saying there's something not right. You got to do something about it.
Trust your gut.
Trust your gut, but act on it.
Yeah.
Because you kind of trust it. Leave it. Yeah, heard that, and you say, oh yeah, last time I should have. So I went through that as well. Now I know better than my gut. I go and do this again. Okay, next time just trust your gut. First instinct, what you get, that's it. Go with that.
So with WA Leaders, it seems like you have a bit of a vision for Perth. Can you touch on that? What's your...
Yes. So with me, it's all about scale. So we started off WA Leaders, had the Perth series going, and that started spinning really well. And thought, okay, where else? So we licensed the model to Southwest Leaders. So we've got someone who's bought the license and they run it. So I don't have to keep going back and forth. And they're a great person. They run that network out of Bunbury, and it looks after that region. And that started spinning really well. We thought, okay, so what else? And that's the thing with me, because I can't sit still.
Yeah.
However, the plates have got to be spinning right before doing something else. Otherwise, 8 businesses, where have they gone?
Yeah.
Things went wrong. So then we set up WA Leaders North Metro this year, launched that this year, and that's starting to spin. Still a long way off, but it's starting to spin. We have some good experts in there. We've got members coming through, and it's creating exactly the kind of culture we've created in Perth and Southwest. Do the same over here, and then that's it. So I can't do any more in WA.
Yeah.
However, brain doesn't stop thinking.
Of course not.
So through the virtual sessions we've been running, I got thinking, okay, so this can be run remotely, right? What about all those regional companies? Karratha, Port Hedland,
Yeah.
no, Northern Territory. There's no one there helping them. Darwin, there's someone up there. So we're starting to market to them, where they can come on using technology, where they can, through our workshops, live streamed, and then the mentoring sessions can be done using Zoom.
Yeah.
And then when they happen to be in Perth 2-3 times a year, they can attend a face-to-face event.
Yeah, fantastic.
Suddenly there's a whole new market. Never even thought of that until COVID hit.
Yeah.
And then out of that, we started thinking, oh yeah, there's a bigger market here. So we're starting to make connections with the local governments up north, and starting to create some marketing over there to bring people into the net. So what that does is it actually expands, members like yourselves.
Yeah.
Suddenly you have a much wider network to connect with, not just the companies who are showing up face to face.
That's brilliant. So a mixed virtual experience.
That's it. Have a hybrid.
You know, it's a good idea because it seems obvious.
Yeah. It's got to happen.
Yeah.
And we've tested it because you guys have been attending virtual events.
Yeah.
And it's only now we're catching up face to face.
You've covered a few things for business owners so far. You got trust your gut, believe in yourself. Role
Don't do too many things at once.
Yeah, role profile.
Yeah.
Can you consolidate that into a few tips for business owners, into some words of wisdom? So that they can come away from this episode and just run with those words.
Okay. So there's 3 words: focus, focus, focus. Okay. If you have split energy, it doesn't work. Right. So that's absolute given. It's like, I don't know how to put this, but imagine if you had 4 wives, right? You're not focused. None of them are going to work. Those marriages can't work. There's no focus. Same thing in business. You got to focus. Okay. The other thing is around the profiling.
Yeah.
You've got to know your profile and your passion. Those 2 things, absolutely critical, because then you know what to focus on once you've got that in place. And when you've got those ingredients working, there's no chance of you failing.
And you can give yourself a break for not wanting to do the books again.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
there we go.
And allow yourself to pay for the person to do that for you. Yeah.
Totally. That's the start, because you know what your profile is and you can identify the gaps which you need to fill in your organization and bring those people in.
and it's so concise.
That's all you need.
It's funny, isn't it? Business owners create their own business, but these simple words of wisdom, they're nowhere to be found, right? Which is why WA Leaders exists now.
Yes.
And a lot of people are just going in blind.
Well, there's a lot of books, but they take those
There's books,
one sentence and they write a whole book around it.
That's right, yeah.
There's YouTube experts that try to sell you things, but just finding someone who can mentor you through that stage or a community that can help you go through that stage, it's actually pretty rare.
We had no idea the breadth of talent that was out there until we joined WA Leaders.
There are other business communities, but WA Leaders is different.
Yeah.
It's different focus.
It's exceptional. Rather than just a group of so-called business owners who get together, you've curated them. I think that's the biggest.
That is critical in a community, because like I said, you just need one bad egg. That's it. Ruin the lot.
So curation and moderation.
Make it happen. Yeah, we're looking at fine-tuning it. We're looking at accountability, all those kind of things. We're looking to add that on because that's something we felt that will make WA Leaders even better. So like we said, look, we want to take our members from being just good companies to great companies. We want to do the same. So along the way, we're fine-tuning all the time. In the background, there's strategizing going on of all sorts. And then we collaborate. We ring our advisory board members and say, what do you think? Don't try and solve it all ourselves. That's the way to do it.
Collaboration.
Collaborate. You innovate through collaboration and you progress. But keep within your profile and focus.
This episode was sponsored by Ninja Software, an entrepreneurial software company that thinks big and moves quietly. Ninja Software executes high-risk, high-concept, and high-value software products. Check them out at njs.dev. Today, we also have a special sponsor, Film My Video, who provided the venue, professional services, and expertise needed to create this episode. Film My Video is a videography studio that creates targeted, story-driven video marketing, cutting-edge interactive e-learning, as well as providing live stream solutions for keynotes, virtual meetings, training, and events.